Imagine this scenario. You wake up on a bright morning, stretch, reach for your phone, and start scrolling through the latest headlines. Suddenly, your heart skips a beat. Your name is splashed across the news. And according to the country's most powerful leader, you are no longer a citizen. Your passport, your rights, your very identity, all wiped away. Not because you broke a law, not because of any crime, but because someone in authority decided you no longer belong. It sounds like a plot from a dystopian novel. But recent headlines suggest this is not as far-fetched as it seems. A fierce political storm erupted when former President Donald Trump declared on his social media platform that he was seriously considering revoking Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship, calling her a threat to humanity. To some, it was just another celebrity spat, yet the reverberations were profound. Suddenly, the conversation shifted from tabloid drama to the heart of what it means to be a citizen, the boundaries of political power, and the very foundations of American democracy. How did we arrive at this unprecedented moment? To answer that, we need to explore the history and the legal framework that surrounds citizenship in the United States. For generations, citizenship has been regarded as a sacred, nearly inviolable bond. The 14th Amendment, ratified more than 1.5 centuries ago in the aftermath of the Civil War, enshrines the principle that anyone born or naturalized on American soil is a citizen. This was intended to be an unbreakable promise, a shield against arbitrary government action. But in an age of political division and social upheaval, even the strongest protections can be tested. In practice, the removal of citizenship in America has always been rare, and historically, it has been used only in exceptional circumstances, almost exclusively when someone is found guilty of fraud or misrepresentation during the naturalization process. Even then, the government must follow strict due process, as demanded by the 5th and 14th Amendments. The right to citizenship is not meant to be wielded as a political weapon. Yet when a former president publicly toys with this power, the very stability of these protections is called into question. Let's bring the issue closer to home by looking at the individuals at the center of this controversy. Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres are two names etched into the fabric of American pop culture. Both have broken barriers, both have faced public scrutiny, and both are now at the heart of a debate that transcends personal rivalry. After Donald Trump's re-election last November, a moment that deepened national divisions, Rosie and Ellen each made the extraordinary decision to leave the United States for the United Kingdom. For Rosie, her departure was a bold act of protest. For Ellen, previously known for her apolitical stance, the move was a stunning statement that surprised even her closest fans. Their relationship has always been layered and nuanced, sometimes marked by camaraderie, other times by competition or lingering misunderstandings. Years earlier, Ellen had denied knowing Rosie during a television interview, which left Rosie deeply hurt, especially given their shared history from the 1990s. Yet, when Trump threatened Rosie's citizenship, Ellen put the past behind them and publicly expressed her support. Her words were simple, but the gesture was powerful, a testament to the higher stakes at play when basic rights are threatened. If even celebrities can see their citizenship debated in the public square, what does that mean for everyone else? Why should this matter to you, to me, to anyone who values democracy? Professor Amira Hall, a nationally renowned constitutional scholar, puts it plainly. Weaponizing citizenship is a slippery slope, one that endangers not just outspoken celebrities, but every single person living in this country. History teaches us that when leaders start defining who is worthy of belonging, democracy itself is on the line. America's own history is rich with cautionary tales. At the dawn of the 20th century, thousands of American women automatically lost their citizenship simply for marrying foreign nationals, a law rooted in xenophobia and sexism that was not overturned until 1940. During the Red Scare of the 1950s, the government considered stripping suspected communists of citizenship, only to be reined in by the Supreme Court. In every instance, it took years, sometimes decades, for justice and rights to be restored. These are not just dusty chapters from history books. In recent years, the Department of Justice has ramped up efforts to pursue denaturalization cases, particularly targeting individuals accused of misrepresenting facts during their path to citizenship. Although these cases remain rare compared to the entire population, the frequency has increased. According to a report from the Migration Policy Institute, denaturalization cases in the past decade have more than doubled compared to previous periods, though they still impact fewer than 1 in every 100,000 naturalized citizens each year. But even the perception of growing denaturalization can fuel anxiety and mistrust in immigrant communities. Rosie O'Donnell did not back down in the face of Trump's threat. Her response was pointed and fearless. "You want to revoke my citizenship? Go ahead and try. I am not yours to silence. I never was." Her defiance resonated widely, igniting conversations about the true limits of free speech and the meaning of dissent in America. The message was unmistakable. Criticizing those in power is not just a right, it is a duty in a thriving democracy. But what if such threats became reality? What if the threat to revoke citizenship moved beyond political theater and became official policy? Most legal experts agree. Any genuine attempt by a president to strip an American-born citizen of their nationality for expressing dissent would plunge the nation into a constitutional crisis of historic proportions. The 14th Amendment's language is clear, but the mere suggestion of such threats signals how fragile democratic norms can be when pushed to their limits. Imagine the fallout. The Supreme Court, often described as the final guardian of constitutional rights, would be thrust into the spotlight, forced to defend the very core of the nation's founding documents. Professor Linda Chavez, a former chair of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, warns, "The normalization of these threats risks silencing dissent and marginalizing entire communities, especially those who are already vulnerable, immigrants, minorities, and outspoken activists." And the ripple effects would not stop at America's borders. For decades, the United States has presented itself to the world as a model of liberty, rule of law, and individual rights. If America started using citizenship as a weapon against its own people, it would provide cover for authoritarian regimes worldwide to do the same. The result? A dramatic increase in statelessness, a condition that the United Nations describes as a legal limbo, where basic rights and protections evaporate. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees estimates that at least 10 million people around the world are currently stateless. Should the precedent spread, this number could climb, with devastating consequences for millions more. Even the mere utterance of such threats has a chilling effect. If the public begins to believe that citizenship, long considered a birthright or hard-earned privilege, can be revoked on a whim, self-censorship is likely to spread. People may hesitate to voice criticism, fearing unpredictable reprisals. This self-imposed silence undermines the very foundation of democracy. In Professor Chavez's words, "Civic education is national security for democracy. When citizens understand and defend their rights, authoritarianism cannot take root." Let's dig deeper into how citizenship works in the United States. There are two main pathways: birthright and naturalization. The vast majority of citizens, those born on American soil, are protected by some of the most robust legal guarantees in the world. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that birthright citizenship cannot be revoked without due process, and never as retribution for political speech. For naturalized citizens, the risk is slightly greater, limited almost exclusively to proven fraud or deliberate misrepresentation during the application process. Even in these rare cases, the government must make its case in court, and the individual has multiple opportunities for appeal. The system is designed to prevent arbitrary or politically motivated action. But history has shown that rights can erode quickly if society becomes complacent. The Expatriation Act of 1907, for instance, resulted in thousands of women losing their citizenship for marrying non-citizens. It took the relentless efforts of women's rights activists and sweeping cultural change to overturn this injustice by 1940. More recently, in the wake of the attacks on September 11th, some political leaders called for expanded powers to revoke citizenship from those suspected of supporting terrorism. These calls sparked fierce pushback from civil liberties groups and the courts, but the struggle to protect core rights has never been easy. Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres, now living abroad, symbolize a growing trend. Rosie, accompanied by her non-binary child Dakota, a story of adoption and acceptance that has inspired many, is pursuing Irish citizenship, drawing on her ancestral roots. Ellen has reportedly settled into a tranquil life in the English countryside, with her wife Portia, raising animals and focusing on new ventures, including her age-positive skincare company and lifestyle brand. Their journeys reflect a broader movement. An increasing number of Americans, especially public figures, are considering dual citizenship or even permanent relocation due to growing political instability. Let's explore the possible consequences if the United States government genuinely began revoking citizenship for political reasons. First, the courts would almost certainly be called upon to intervene, resulting in a legal showdown that could reshape constitutional law for generations. The outcome would test both the letter and the spirit of the 14th Amendment, as well as the judiciary's resolve in checking executive power. Second, Congress would face immense pressure to clarify, amend, or reinforce the laws governing citizenship. In a worst-case scenario, a movement could arise to amend or limit the 14th Amendment, threatening the rights of millions. The stakes are not abstract, they are deeply personal. According to the American Immigration Council, there are more than 22 million naturalized citizens living in the United States today. Each one has undergone a lengthy and rigorous process, including background checks, interviews, tests, and a formal oath of allegiance. The idea that their citizenship could be stripped away for political reasons runs counter to the very ideals on which the nation was founded. And let's not forget the millions more immigrants, green card holders, asylum seekers, who watch these debates with mounting concern. When the threat of losing citizenship becomes normalized, fear radiates far beyond the immediate targets. Communities become hesitant to organize, protest, or even speak up, worried that their status and future in the country could be at risk. The chilling effect spreads, stifling public debate and civic engagement. Globally, the consequences could be catastrophic. If America, long championed as the land of the free, resorts to weaponizing citizenship, it sets a precedent that could be adopted by other governments. History is filled with dark examples. Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, apartheid-era South Africa, all used citizenship laws to silence, exclude, and persecute dissenters and minorities. Statelessness, once considered an anomaly, could return as a widespread instrument of political control. The United Nations has already documented rising numbers of stateless people in countries where citizenship requirements have tightened or where disfavored groups are targeted for exclusion. If the United States were to join this trend, the humanitarian impact would be enormous. So what can you do to protect your rights and those of your community? First, recognize that citizenship is both a privilege and a responsibility. The legal protections enshrined in the Constitution are powerful, but they depend on the vigilance and engagement of the public. Take time to learn about your rights and educate those around you. Knowledge is the first and most effective line of defense. Second, stay informed and alert. Political threats often gain momentum when the public is disengaged or misinformed. The more you understand about the Constitution, especially the 14th Amendment and the history of citizenship law, the less susceptible you are to fear-mongering or manipulation. Share this knowledge with friends, family, and your wider community. As Professor Chavez eloquently states, an educated citizenry is the greatest threat to tyranny. Third, if you or someone you know is a naturalized citizen, understand that denaturalization is only possible in the most extreme circumstances, generally involving clear and deliberate fraud. Even then, the law provides for full due process, legal representation, and multiple appeals. A vast majority of Americans, especially those born on United States soil, are protected by some of the world's strongest citizenship guarantees. Do not let anyone, politician or pundit, convince you otherwise. And finally, remember that citizenship is more than a legal formality. It is a living connection to a community and a nation. It means the right to participate in civic life, to vote, to speak out, and to demand accountability from those in power. When that status is threatened, even rhetorically, the health of society as a whole suffers. When leaders try to redefine belonging, it is up to ordinary people to push back. Consider this often overlooked chapter from history. In the early 20th century, thousands of American women lost their citizenship for marrying foreigners, a practice that persisted until the mid-20th century. This stark reminder underscores how quickly rights can be lost if society is not vigilant. The saga of Rosie O'Donnell, Ellen DeGeneres, and the ensuing political uproar is not just about celebrity gossip. It is a wake-up call, a chance for us all to reconsider the meaning of citizenship, the resilience of constitutional protections, and the power of everyday people to keep leaders accountable. This story highlights not only the fragility of rights, but also the potential for solidarity and resistance in the face of threats. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold. Legal scholars anticipate that if such threats continue, the courts may be forced to clarify the absolute limits of citizenship revocation. Political shifts could lead to new debates over immigration and naturalization laws. International organizations, including the United Nations, might intervene to address the growing crisis of statelessness. There is also the risk of these threats becoming normalized, fracturing society and deepening divides. The outcome depends on how vigilant, informed, and united people remain. In closing, remember, If a president ever tried to revoke someone's citizenship purely for political reasons, the courts would almost certainly intervene to block the attempt. The Constitution is clear. No single leader has the power to unilaterally override individual rights. But the real danger lies in the normalization of such threats. When citizenship becomes conditional, democracy itself is imperiled. So, stay vigilant. Ask questions. Challenge those who would undermine your rights or the rights of others. Never let anyone, whether a president or a pundit, convince you that your citizenship is at the mercy of those in power. Stand up for your rights, and for the rights of those whose voices may not be as loud or widely heard. In the end, the story of America is written not by its leaders, but by its people, bound together by a shared commitment to liberty, equality, and justice for all. If you found this deep dive enlightening, please hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more revealing stories at the crossroads of law, politics, and technology. Remember,